start it up?
Somebody, or just,
Let me know when you're good to go, Tony.
No, as of Friday, they've been gone right now, but
That's stupid.
we had a huge incident on Friday.
Good to go? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Litchfield Board of Selectmen meeting for June 13th, 2016. Would you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Board of Selectmen have just come out of a discussion with Town Council. We'll now go into our general meeting. First item of business is a public hearing. Pursuant to RSA 31:95B, the Selectmen will consider reappropriating the balance of unanticipated funds in the amount of $11,700 as previously committed for the New Hampshire Municipal Pipeline Coalition on August 24th, 2015. Said funds will be used for legal and other costs associated with the PFOA drinking and groundwater environmental contamination matter. The public is, this has been posted in the, what was the posting on this, Troy?
Community Leader, town website, our community television.
Okay.
board.
So this has been duly posted and noticed. I will open up any members of the public who wish to comment on this. Are there any members of the public who wish to provide the Selectmen with comments on this? Hearing none, I will close the public hearing. Are there any members of the board who have comments on this?
Nope.
Hearing none, do I have a motion to appropriate those, reappropriate those revenues in the amount of $11,700?
so moved.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries 4-0-0. I'll now close the public hearing. So, next item on the agenda, if I can get back to it. Next item on the agenda is the review and approval of consent items. We have in the consent calendar, in the consent folder, May 18th and May 23rd, 2016 meeting minutes of the Board of Selectmen, May 23rd, 2016 non-public meeting minutes of the Select Board, accounts payable manifest dated 5/31/16 in the amount of $84,469.08, as well as on June 7th, 2016 of $69,728.50, and for June 14th, 2016 of $35,090.79. We have payroll manifest dated June 2nd, 2016 of $50,212.13, June 9th, 2016 of $48,315.95, June 14th, 2016 of $54,046.85. We have reconciliation of general fund revenues for May of 2016, 1 intent to cut, 5 requests for abatement, and a deputy forest fire warden appointment for Mr. Paul Kelly. Are there any items on the consent agenda that the board wishes to remove? Hearing none, do I have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion by Mr. Brunel. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Perry. Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries 4-0-0. Are there any additional items for, or other business that the board wishes to have added to the agenda for tonight's meeting? Hearing none then, public input will occur no later than 6:30. The time is now 6:38. Are there members of the public who wish to comment to the board? Hearing none, we will then close public comment. Moving on. Police Department Community Survey, Chief O'Brien.
Yes, sir.
Chief, can you just grab this chair and swing it around when you get while you're up there? Thank you.
Evening.
Good evening, Chief. One of the things I think that you wanted to do is put out a community survey. And I know at least one member of the board, Mr. Lemire, who, by the way, has an excused absence tonight and won't be able to participate. But he did have some questions on it, and we wanted to allow you to present to the board your ideas, what the purpose is, that type of stuff. So if you can kind of go over this, that would be great.
Sure. Back in 2008, we did an MRI report, and part of the MRI was to the police department and the town to put out community surveys. So I put one together and presented it to the board to present to the town. It's just some questions on satisfaction. It's the Litchfield Police Department 2016 satisfaction survey. And some of the questions, do you feel safe in town? Have you had any contact with a police officer? What was your experience? If I need assistance, I'm comfortable calling the Litchfield Police Department. I'm satisfied with the way the Litchfield Police Department responds to crime in my community. And other such questions like that go into the services that we provide.
Okay. There's a question that you have on the it's number 14. It says, would you be in support of a public safety complex which houses police and fire?
Yes.
Why were you asking that question, Chief?
Well, it's been in a number of reports that the town has. It's in the 2002 master plan, and it was in the MRI report. There's a suggestion that that's what should be looked at.
Are you in need of more space? Is that the genesis of the question, or
Yes.
you haven't expanded any offices or anything? Why would you need more space?
We were in need of space 4 years after we were built. The 2002 master plan shows that basically what the town did is they built for our needs right then, not with any forethought of us growing or anything like that. We had an issue with evidence storage. We built out on that. Our evidence is now overflowing again, and we are using a cell to put evidence in like we have in the past.
Can we decrease some of the evidence? Are those cases that we could remove material from or anything?
No, and we don't have a place to process evidence properly. You know, if we have a serious case, we're using the garage or the Sally port. You know, it's just not the best practice in police work to do, especially if you get a serious case, because then your chain of custody and how you're processing evidence is going to be contaminated. It's going to be questioned. The Sally port was one of the things that they recommended as it was a safety issue well, it's been a safety issue since they built the building because the cruisers don't fit in the Sally port. So one of the comments from MRI at the time was, I'll quote them. Once the cruiser was inside, it was observed that there was barely enough room to close the garage door, and that an officer would have difficulty negotiating from the driver's side to the passenger side of the cruiser in order to remove a prisoner. This situation should be corrected immediately due to officer safety issues.
That report was done in 2007.
2008.
Okay,
Yep, the
2008.
MRI report.
And that was a different cruiser. The cruisers are different now. How was that affected?
Still no room in there for the cruisers.
So what happens is the officer has to open the door, and then he takes the prisoner takes him from the car, walks him in through the sally port, then closes the door. Just it's an unsafe way to do things. They should be in, once you take that prisoner out, he should be in a secured building. The officer should be able to maneuver around the vehicle, be able to secure his firearm, and then secure the prisoner in the holding cell.
So, it sounds like you've made your mind up that you need a safety complex to do that?
No, it was just a question to ask if people were, people in the community would be open to that idea.
How about an expansion to the building?
I'm not an expert in how that would happen or how to facilitate that. The way the building is now, it's very broken up. To take and move evidence through 2 or 3 different areas of your building to go to another part of the building just wouldn't be the proper way to do it. You know, generally, evidence is kept in one spot, and the securing of that and the processing of that should be in the relatively the same area.
Okay. Other questions from members of the board?
Were you involved in the, when they were laying the plans out for this at all?
I was not. I was just a patrolman.
Okay.
How long have you been using the holding cell as evidence storage?
I would say all of this year, probably part of last year.
And how many cells do we have back there for holding?
We have 1 juvenile cell and 1 adult cell.
Which one do you use for storage?
The adult cell
So what happens when you bring an adult prisoner in?
just stays
Alright.
in the holding. There's a holding area.
Yeah.
If we
So-
have an adult and a juvenile, we have to keep the juvenile sight and sound away from the adult. So if the person had to use the bath, so let's say we had that situation, and that's possible. You have a 17-year-old that's in custody and then an 18-year-old. For that person to use the bathroom, we would have to take them out of the cell and probably take them into the front lobby here and let them use the restroom.
Because you can't have them in the same area.
Correct.
Yeah. The other thing I was remembering is back when we had the storage container out here.
Yes.
How long did that case go on that we had that storage container out there for inadequate space
I want
to
to say
store evidence?
3 years, anyhow.
So there's just one example of how long it can
And
take
that
and
was
how long
one
you have
case.
to hold it.
That was one case.
Right.
And that was the county attorney that ordered us, because I tried to get some of the stuff taken out, but we couldn't prove ownership. We had a person that was claiming ownership, but until a judge ruled on that decision, so we had to wait for the case to go to trial.
Yep. Before
Before we could dispose any of it. And the county attorney ordered me that I cannot release it.
What's some of the other major deficiencies you have over there?
The
Space.
restrooms, we have 1 toilet for all the males that are working. We have a female restroom. So, and we have, during the day, we'll have 2 to 3 females on. So if one male's using the bathroom, then the other males would have to go out into the hallway or go somewhere else.
Okay.
I mean, the layout really, in my experience, is not a police station. It's more of an office setting.
Any other questions from members of the board? Is the board all set? There's no questions?
I do have one other question. How do you plan on distributing this questionnaire?
I talked to John, maybe putting something online or doing a mail out. Some of the things that MRI recommended was maybe not necessarily everybody in town, but do a percentage. We do that over a couple years. It's we used to do it in Florida. We get feedback on the community's thoughts on the police department. They had the opportunity to write in. One of the questions is anything other that you would like to see the police department doing.
We can also utilize a sign out there, point them to a website.
Sure.
We can, the thought was we can do it as a Google survey and then just post it on our Facebook page, the police department Facebook page. And there's over 3,000 subscribers to those pages. If there's interest to give them their feedback, that's the easiest path to it. Mailing may not get returned, it may not get dropped off, but it's very simple to go click a few
Yeah,
buttons.
maybe we
and go.
try it that way first and see what you get for a response before you spend the money to mail out.
Okay, anything else from the board? Okay, thanks, chief.
Great, thank you very much.
Have a good night.
Thanks, you too.
Have a good one.
Thanks for sticking around.
Thank you.
Oh, no problems.
Okay, next item is a draft resolution for 2016-01, which would be dissolution of the Litchfield Cable Advisory Committee. Let me see here.
Ask a question.
Absolutely.
Troy, did this get reviewed by council yet?
Not yet. no.
Okay, so we're gonna look this over to say that we think it's good, and then we're gonna send it out.
I thought the last ask was to have council look at it before we looked at it.
That's what I was trying to remember.
Yeah,
That's why I asked.
yeah, I mean, I know there's been a lot of other crap going on, but,
Yeah, no, well, if that was the case, I apologize, it wasn't completely done, it's still not done at this point. I think really, Richard and I have been working on different pieces, which is
Mr.
now-
Pentheny, if you can come up front, that'd be great.
yeah,
He's worked on the, what do you call it, the charter. And there's just some general questions, I think the same goes for the job description and the town charter. Really comes down to, for the cable manager, do we want this person to report directly to the town administrator?
So I guess before we get too far into it, there may be a misapprehension on the part of the citizens when they hear that we're dissolving the cable committee as to what that means. So maybe if you can explain what that means, that could allay some fears, I guess, I'll call it, if you know what I'm saying.
Well, to be frank, with this, if
I'm
we take
frank.
this action.
I'm frank.
The cable committee, which really hasn't been that active in the past 3 years, it sounds like, the committee itself, maybe more.
Depends how you look at it.
Yeah, okay. But we're at that point where, the committee really is no longer needed. We need more of a manager that's gonna operate the day-to-day operation, oversee the part-time staff, manage the property, the equipment, make sure that we are following our own guidelines and.
So under town organization, the committee, which exists now, is really a offshoot of when the town was initially going to allow the franchising of a cable service to the town. That was many, many years ago. I don't know how long ago it was, but it was a long time ago. And right now, what we need is an organization that's more appropriate to the job at hand, which is running a cable television program to present the citizens of Litchfield with the information of meetings and all of that type of stuff. So that would be something similar to what would be done, for example, as you would have for the recycling center. It would be an organization along the lines of highway or recycling center or whatever the case may be. It does not mean that we're gonna fold all television service to the town. It does not mean that we're cutting back on anything on that. It just means we're changing the organization. It also does not mean that we're asking for more money. It strictly means that we're going to just change the structure of the organization to make it function as a town organization, not as a committee.
and I think it's important to stress that it can't run as a committee because we've not been able to get volunteers to actively act as part of the committee, and that is causing some problems because of RSA laws require us to do certain things certain ways, and we've not been able to do that for years. It's been Dick, for the most part, consistently throughout beginning of time, and a few stragglers have come and gone, and there's a core group, but it's not enough to run a committee, and dissolving it just ensures the fact that the services that they see on the PEG channel stay, the investment continues to be made, and showings and all that stuff happens. Otherwise, we have no other choice. we shut it down.
And then I think another thing that may occur is that you're meeting with, you know, some of the staff and volunteer staff. And the question comes up whether, you know, technically is that a committee meeting or is that just, you know, management working with staff? I think that's where we're at right now, where
Right.
you have that situation occurring quite often.
So we have in front of us right now a draft motion, a resolution, I should say, that would dissolve the cable committee that was formed according to this in March 18th of 1978. You probably had black hair then.
I did. Thank you for pointing that out.
And a lot more probably too.
I had hair then. So, but the draft resolution would basically dissolve the Cable Advisory Committee, which is really what it's still known as today, and then it would create a Litchfield Cable Television manager and appoint Mr. Pentheny actually to that position with the ability to staff what he needs in order to run this type of a function. Dick, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, first of all, I want to thank some of the long-term members that we've had, Cindy Couture and Tim Kearns, for an example. They've been in it a long time. Cindy actually started the cable committee by going around with a video camera and recording some of the meetings a long time ago. And Tim Kearns has been involved for probably about the same period of time. So I just wanted to acknowledge their service publicly. My thoughts are that we are operating, we've had a problem getting folks to come to the meetings. I don't have a lot of meetings because usually we're in constant contact. But when things start to bubble up, then I would try to put a meeting together, and we could never get a quorum because, as we all know, when people volunteer, especially in this town, they volunteer for everything. And a lot of times we couldn't get a quorum together to meet. But we are still doing a lot of work. And it would be great to have an organization where we weren't required to do a vote for everything. And that's kind of where the cable committee is at this point.
Okay. Questions on members from the board?
I've read through this. I think it looks good. As far as I'm concerned, council says it looks good. I'm good with it.
Okay. So what we need, though, is, I think you came to the board once before, Dick, with an outline, but that was more of a continuation of the cable committee, and I think you've been working with Troy since then to try and
Right,
come up
yep,
with something?
we have another draft.
Okay. So,
So basically, in the draft, there was a lot of material in here that I think that is good. Basically, the kind of material that people can submit and that kind of thing, so that we have some checks and balances. We had a structure where there were 5 people on the team, and now we're down to 3. But we're still going to be dividing up the workload amongst those 3. But we didn't feel like we needed 5 people on the crew at this point, and that's all been modified in this current draft. The questions that I have are the reporting structure, and I think I redlined those for the different elements in the draft.
okay.
Well, we can still go ahead and approve the resolution, dissolve it with appointing Dick, and then let him continue massaging the charter itself and how you're gonna function. Right? I mean, do we have to wait for all that to be complete?
I think what we want to do is approve the organizational structure once Dick gets that done with Troy. I am jumping into this because I think the last discussion on this occurred at a meeting I was not present for.
You are correct.
And my question is, does the board want to go ahead and approve this without review of council? And if they do, that's fine. But if not, then we would probably do this at our next meeting, get this reviewed by council between now and then, and,
Which materials would we be reviewed by council? I know the original request I thought was the resolution to dissolve, just to make sure that we didn't miss anything in the legalese.
And so that's, that question has been asked to the New Hampshire Municipal Association, legal counsel, whether the selectmen had the right to do that, and I provided the town meeting votes and action, and they responded back that absolutely.
Now, the question was, does the resolution that we wrote cover everything we need to cover? I think that's what the ask was about, because I don't think we have to have the
resolution.
job description's a job description, that's gonna be, you know, the cable managers, that's his job, that's our job description, not the lawyers. And the charter is really about how they want it to
Agreed.
work, so I don't think that involves our legal counsel neither.
So, yeah, so the only question was, and again, when I introduced this a couple of weeks ago, I mentioned that before the board took action, you could hold a public hearing just to get input. But that's not required by state law, that's totally optional on the board's part.
Yeah, I think it would be fair, I mean, in case there's people that,
Yeah.
for some reason, think that we have to have the committee.
Right.
I mean, they should be able to say their opinion.
And if they do think that we
They
have to have the
said that
committee, they
last
should be
meeting.
willing to step up and volunteer.
Right.
Because
Exactly,
that's,
right.
that's where we're at. We're at that struggle where we can't get the volunteers to help and we can't form a proper committee that way.
But I also think that, so if you had a committee today, the role of the chairman, or chairperson, has become very hands-on, and I think
Right.
that's risen to the point too, where we've grown so much that we need someone that's responsible.
Right.
For
Some
overseeing
towns-
the day-to-day operation, not your typical responsibilities of a committee chairperson.
Some towns do a mix. Hudson actually has a cable advisory board, I think it's about 10 members, but it's mostly citizens. And then they also have a HCTV group
Right.
that does what we do. But I don't think we're that big for that kind of an infrastructure at this point. I don't know whether we ever will be.
Well, the problem is, I don't know if you'll get those folks to step up and do
That's the
that,
thing.
right? I mean, Hudson it's a larger community, is that their cable system's been around for a lot longer, there's been a lot
Right.
of talent in there, but I mean, at the end of the day, as a department, you'd be soliciting public feedback anyway.
Yeah,
To get ideas, and having an advisory or having a group of people come together and going, I have these ideas for pay channels, great, let's go do it, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that doesn't stop anything.
No.
But I agree, I think we should do it as a public hearing, just to kinda say it's done.
Okay, Troy, would we be able to book a public hearing for our next meeting, which is on the, what is it, 27th?
27.
We got enough time to,
Yeah, we do, 7 days,
okay. Is it 7 or 10?
7.
7.
Okay,
There's no state law for it, so that's, your normal would be a 7-day notice.
you good with that, Dick?
Good.
Have you seen the resolution at all, or,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and you're fine?
I'm fine with it.
Okay. Any other questions from members of the board?
Yeah, who and when will the hourly rate be set for the position?
Well, it'll be up to
I
us
don't
to
see
do
that here, so, and we don't have the position,
That
we're
was the one
creating
thing
one,
that
we
was
need to
left.
come up with one.
We were talking, Dick and I was talking about somewhere in the range of, $12 an hour, the same
Yeah.
rate that, the other workers were being
Yeah,
paid, but
basically.
I think that, I can find something I'd like to see it assigned to our pay scale and position it, so it's a little bit higher than just to make a distinction between the workers and the manager. But in the $12 range.
Okay. Is that good for you?
I just wanted to make sure we accounted for that, that's all.
Right.
Yeah, and it's coming out of the franchise fee.
Yeah, and people should be aware of that.
It's coming out of the
all
franchise
big-
fees, so.
the big fees.
This position wouldn't even exist if we didn't have the franchise.
It's still, I mean, it's still, at the $12 range, it's still sort of like a volunteer
Yeah,
type position. This is, I know people would.
it's almost like the
We
pay
pay
rate of a
$35 for a department. This is not.
So, okay, so we will have a public hearing then at the next meeting and try and, make this work.
Great.
And if you guys can work together on trying to get that put into the, salary grid, that would work.
Okay.
And, I think, Dick, if you can finish off or if you've already got it done, that's great. I think send it to the board, so that we can take a look at it. Your
You could probably
document.
send that version that we have, because it's basically questions that the BOS could probably be helpful with.
Yeah.
Steve?
One last question. do we have the right to use PEG fees to pay for positions?
We do for the operators already.
We
today.
do for operators, do we for a management style position? I wouldn't see why, but we wanna make sure of that. So if we're
I
gonna,
don't know why
if
you
we're gonna,
couldn't, but I would
but if we're
ask.
gonna send this to council, let's make certain of that as well.
Well, I think, yeah, I mean, we're the ones that decided where the pig fees went initially, and especially when we decided to pay for the operators.
Sometimes when you ask these kinds of questions, you'll find out only this percentage could be used, or not more than that can be done, or, just wanna make sure.
Only if it's the third Saturday of the fourth month.
Exactly.
Of the 6th week.
My typical understanding is that this is local revenue, that could be just used to help offset the tax rate.
We used to do it that
Towns-
way.
Towns, some towns will specifically appropriate them, you know, and we've done that in this town, 100% towards the operation of the
We
case.
just let it go, we just let it go into the general fund and this budgeted out of it, so.
Yeah, but the problem with that was that the users were paying an additional fee to make up for it.
No, because it was counted as revenue, so it offset it.
It was easier to do it this way.
No, I agree with that.
Actually, if you want an elucidation of the discussion as to how that would work, it would actually go to the general fund, and then we would raise an appropriation, which would actually double charge but that's not,
You couldn't just charge us, show us revenue coming in every year, as we're doing the revenue schedule?
my understanding was, to your point, we did let it go to the general fund. When it went to the general fund, it would be stayed in the general fund until appropriated out of the general fund by the Board of Selectmen to offset taxes, which would only occur in September's.
Oh, so the net was.
And then what would end up happening is we'd have him in the budget, and the budget would be for cable committee, and that would raise another appropriation that would go to the
But it would
taxpayers.
get up, but it would end up,
And that's why I wanted to say, stop this,
yeah, that
put
makes
it,
sense.
put it as the franchise fee pays for the whole thing.
Yep.
And take it off, raising an appropriation on the back of the taxpayers. But,
And we reduced the rate from the
Yeah.
cable subscribers too, from 5 to 2.
right,
Yeah, we did it to be, just to come into what we.
so we
did
tried to
before.
match what your estimate was, Dick, for running the whole thing, so. And that, by the way, is something we need to look at again, just to make sure it makes sense. Which I should, because I don't think there's no additional cost on this, so. Okay, anything else on this?
Nope.
Cool.
Thank you, sir, for your work on this, I appreciate it, and
Pleasure.
hopefully we can get this resolved next meeting. You good, Troy? Everything on this?
Let me know if you need something we can get
Okay.
together, whatever.
Okay, next item on the agenda, I don't wanna hear any barking now, is the 2016 dog warrant. Now, if you can find it in one of those folders, I think. I think it's in the signature folder. So originally, Troy had suggested that we put this on the consent calendar. And I decided that I didn't want to see it on the consent calendar because I wanted any citizens who are watching out there to know the following, that this is a warrant that is given to the chief of police, Police Chief Joseph O'Brien. It says, on June 13th, 2016, the town of Litchfield presented a list of dog owners of dogs who have failed to license or not renew their dog license pursuant to RSA 466:1. You are hereby directed to issue civil forfeiture for each unlicensed dog in compliance with the provisions of RSA 466:14. Further, you and duly sworn members of the Litchfield Police Department are authorized to seize any unlicensed dogs following written warning to the dog owner, given under our hand at Litchfield, New Hampshire, this 13th day of June 2016, signed by members of the Board of Selectmen. So if you have not registered your dog, please do so. I will make a motion that the Board of Selectmen hereby approves the warrant to be given to the police chief to direct the police department to issue a civil forfeiture for each unlicensed dog and to authorize the police department to seize any unlicensed dog following written warning to the owner.
Second.
We have a motion, second, discussion. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries 400.
And just a comment, I know that the clerk's office spends hours calling and tracking down these folks to have that, I mean, there's only a few there, obviously, but that's because of their work, so.
Yeah,
We go through a lot of pain have to go through this process, but
how many are in here? I'm gonna
it's
guess,
like a page and a
I
half.
thought it was 23.
Is it 23?
is it 23?
Yeah, John's
It's 23
correct.
dogs, yep.
I've watched the town clerk's office, call numerous times. They call each person, really bend over backwards to make sure that they're aware. The last thing they want, they just want the dog registered. They really don't want to be issuing the fines and penalties.
Okay. Next item on the agenda, I also didn't want on the consent calendar, and that was that Mr. Cameron Lee Schmidt of Litchfield has earned his Eagle Scout Award rank. And we have authorized a certificate of recognition for outstanding achievement in exceptional leadership and citizenship, as evidenced by attaining the rank of Eagle Scout. I'll make a motion that we award Mr. Schmidt a certificate of recognition and issue a job well done.
Second.
The motion, second, you can pick whoever you'd like to second that.
Steve was like a
I
edge
think,
ahead
I
of me,
think
so-
Steve was a microsecond ahead,
Actually, it's
so,
B.
discussion by the board?
Well, congratulations, job well done, as you said. It's not an easy task.
It is a long road to hoe, All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries 400. Okay, and Troy, I think on this one, I'll let you update the board on this as to where we stand with the Department of Transportation demolition notice.
Is this a new topic or something I've just in here before?
I think it's a new
It's
topic.
a new topic. I just want to make sure the board was aware. We've received letters, correspondence from New Hampshire Department of Transportation, the Bureau of Turnpikes. They own 3 properties in the town of Litchfield. One is located at 15 Charles Bancroft Highway, the other one 231 Derry Road, and the other 242A Derry Road. So they're basically reached out to inform us that they're in the process of going out to bid to have these properties demolished. Wanted to have any input from the town regarding cultural or historical resources, knowledge of wetlands, that type of stuff. I've followed up and made contact with the folks at the Historical Society just to make sure, even though it's stated in the letter, that they were in receipt. And in fact, they have received the letter. They've put in a request, just a verbal request, for consideration, if they could lease the property at 15 Charles Bancroft Highway. They'd like to be able to have, use the building to display art and other artifacts, I understand. So that request verbally has been submitted. The fire chief I reached out to, and he's going to contact the state. He's very interested in doing whatever training he can do on the other 2 buildings. So whether, even if we're not allowed to burn them, he can still do a lot of different types of training. Hopefully, the state will work with us and allow training to go on, and then a final burn, and then they can, just do the demolition for whatever's left. So,
Were these houses purchased by the state because of the circumferential highway?
yeah, that's my understanding.
So how would, if they're gonna demo the buildings, why would the Historical Society wanna use it as a display area? I mean, not,
Well, one of the houses, and I think the house that Troy's referring to, was built in 1800.
Is that the big gray one?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Gray one as soon as you come over.
so it's got some,
Isn't there structural problems with that though? I heard
I don't know.
the foundation or something was caving in over there or something.
I guess I was gonna, the other question was, is why wouldn't the state just turn it back over or sell it? I mean, I know we're not paying they're not paying taxes. on it,
Well,
so we've
I think
lost
the
tax.
state is still of the opinion that at some point in the future,
They're gonna use that land,
they're gonna use the land for circumferential highway.
okay.
I know. it won't be in my lifetime.
I've been in the state.
I don't think they're willing to give the land up yet. They definitely wanna just remove the structure because, some of them poor shape, just
Well, it's a
maintenance.
hazard, I get that.
It's a hazard,
I mean, I think allowing the fire chief to use it for burn practice and training makes perfect sense and should do it. I just was questioning if the buildings are usable, why wouldn't they just put it back on the market and sell it out and let it let it pay taxes versus we're getting nothing for the land
Probably
they
been
own.
vacant so long that they're not.
Probably, yeah.
Actually, Troy, I think, had mentioned to me when I discussed this with him, end of last week, that the, state had rented some of this out. And I guess there was some problems with renting it out or whatever that,
Yeah, for whatever reason, but the good
No one
thing
likes
was,
to be a
when they
landlord.
did rent it, at least we did receive property taxes for it.
We did?
I was informed that when they were rented, we would receive property tax.
Cause the demos, the property cards say they haven't paid taxes.
Yeah, because they're not rented right now, but,
they're not rented right now, yeah.
vacant.
So if I vacate my house and just leave it there, I don't have to pay taxes? Curious.
No, it depends who owns it. If the bank owns it, then yeah, you don't have to pay taxes.
No, I think it's the state, state's
Yeah.
tax
No,
tax
it's-
exempt, but when they're using it for a different purpose, it's subject to taxation.
Any questions on this by the board?
I think it's great use, the fire chief can get them.
Next item, number 6, NRPC Electricity Supply Aggregation MOU, Memorandum of Understanding. Troy?
This is the program, the town's been involved in this, for a few years now. It's worked out well. The town's had estimated savings in the current contract that we have with NRPC, an estimated $7,269. The contract is up, the end of this year. NRPC, is reaching out to all the schools and towns that currently participate. They need to know if we're gonna continue to participate by July 1st. And we'd be working, I think in August to get the RFP together and get it out to bid. So I recommend that we continue to participate in this program. It works out fine. I understand that Eversource's rates are projected to increase here soon, so.
Is there any questions by members of the board? I'll make a motion that the Board of Selectmen approves the participation of the town in the NRPC electric rate group, and that we go forward with negotiating a new rate.
Second.
The motion, discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries 4-0-0. So you're good on that, Troy?
Yep.
Okay. Draft uncollectible accounts receivable policy.
Okay, so the background on why this is before you is primarily due to the ambulance fund that we have. And you probably recall that in the last 2 audits, the auditors have made comments that we need to develop a policy to write off uncollectible receivables. In working with, Frank and I worked together writing the policy, and we felt that it was in the best interest of the town that we write the policy, not specific for ambulance, but for all receivables handled by the town. So that's why this is before you is a town-wide policy for all receivables. It lays out a process where it starts off with the departments that generate the service. It's their responsibility, as it is today, to schedule that service, submit invoices to the contractors, and to monitor that for 30 days. If they receive no response, to send out one more notice. If no activity is received, then it'll be turned over to the finance department, which will send out another notice. And the plan is, if we don't receive payment within 10 days, we would turn it over to a collection agency and allow that collection agency to do what they do best to try to collect this funding for us. I understand that even though you're using a collection agency, their collection rate can be anywhere from 5 to 10%. So at some point in time, the collection agency will come back to us and say, we're not able to collect these fees, and we'll have to decide that. A lot of the reasons will be they just can't find the individual, they'll be homeless, there's no record of address, they've filed bankruptcy. I mean, there's a whole list of reasons why we may not be able to collect the money. If there's a large amount, we may want to consult with legal counsel before we actually write it off. So it'd be a very formal process that we would follow. Again, the departments, the finance department, and then eventually to the Board of Selectmen, where at least once a year, you would be presented with a list of uncollectible accounts, receivables, that you would vote to write off. This has not been reviewed by legal counsel, and has not been reviewed by our auditing staff, which, obviously I think we should have.
So I think the next step in this is that, take a look at this. If you're willing tonight, we can move this on to council, have council review it, and then, we can bring this back to a future meeting and get this resolved.
Yep.
Questions? Does that make sense in terms of,
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it does, and I think including all the different departments that can create the account receivable makes sense versus just the ambulance we were talking about before.
yeah, it just, there's too many opportunities here that, so it makes sense that we expand it just beyond that. You're looking at ambulance may be one of the bigger issues we deal with, but I think looking beyond that, it makes much better sense. Okay, so we move it on to council, or you guys,
I would say it should go to council.
you okay?
I'm okay with that.
First read, it reads fine, so.
So Troy, if,
Yeah, I'll send it off to council, and I also want to share it with our auditing staff,
Frank Byron,
Frank Byron.
The younger Frank Byron.
Yeah.
the prettier Frank Byron.
I wasn't gonna say that.
Would it be beneficial to show it to him first, make sure there isn't something
Yeah.
that he requires?
I'll
It may make sense.
show it with them first, and then let it, okay, good point.
But if you get that back from him and he says he's good with it, or they think it's the right policy, then don't wait for the board again, just go ahead
No,
and send it to
I'll
council.
send it directly.
Okay. Anything else on that, the policy? Hearing none then, we will move on to the one I've been waiting for, which is the financial report. Troy?
Okay, down the bottom. So, I've, if you click on the tab, so I've inserted a Excel spreadsheet or Google Doc spreadsheet. So, I want to first start off just talking about the budget in general. One of the things that Karen and I have been trying to do, we keep thinking we're almost there, but it's a slow, painful process working with our current financial software company. Using one of their reports, we went through several of the reports, and I picked out one that I really liked, which I thought would work, would be a great tool to use, where it would start off with the original appropriation for each line item, and then we can record our adjustments when we decided, to try to meet the default budget, whether we were increasing a line item or decreasing a line item. And then you'd have a column that would show the new approved adjusted budget. And then it would just go through and monitor expenses and show your, dollars remaining and percent remaining. So we're not quite there yet. We started this process back, I think, in April. But I've been told that we will be in receipt of the new report soon. So the report that you've been receiving, I'm sure you've noticed, they have written the report, but the problem is they've grouped in a lot of the departments. So you might see the tax collector and town clerk and supervisors of the checklist and all the town, all that stuff merged into one, which is difficult for to monitor the specific departments. So that's what they're working on right now to correct. Overall, the budget, we have 58% of the budget remaining, which is about where we should be at. We've had some good things that have happened. We have a few items that we're watching. One of the great things that happened was that the fire department was able to hire a full-time firefighter/paramedic, which came with years of experience, already trained and certified as a paramedic. There was a lot of concern about the cost if we were unable to do that. So that's going to save the town a lot of money, and also we have an employee working for us right now that's hit the ground and is running. We just finished up utilizing the prisoner program. I'm sure you saw some of the work that we did in front of town hall. They've done work in the cemeteries. They've done some work down at the Dara Park. And that program worked out really well this year, as it has in the past. The fire chief has shared with me his RFP for the fire exhaust system. I'm not sure if that's gone out yet, but when I saw it, it was final draft. So I'm assuming he has probably submitted that around to his different contacts, and that is underway. The police chief informed me today that the cruisers will be hopefully in receipt of the cruisers this week. That will be delivered at Irwin Ford, and from there they'll be transported down to somewhere near Portsmouth, New Hampshire, where two-way communications will fit them up, and eventually they'll get back here sometime around the 1st of July is when he's anticipating that they'll arrive. We have, in the police department, we've had problems with vehicle maintenance. We've expended the entire budget. We're now $2,600 over his budget. And it's really difficult to anticipate how much more unexpected repair work may be incurred in the remaining 6 months of the budget. Hopefully having the 2 new vehicles come on board will be a big help. We've also had problems with the building department, the Ford Explorer. So we're currently $1,600 over in vehicle maintenance on that vehicle. All of our vehicles, the state changed the inspection for all town vehicles from, I think it was always in September, and now I believe it's going to be June. So we'll be having all of our vehicles inspected here shortly, and that sometimes can generate more cost. That's when they find
Are they gonna give us
Brakes.
a rebate on inspections?
No, I don't think so. As you know, we've changed our insurance plans. I've put on all notices, and so we're in the process of having those changed so that they'll coincide with our actual budget year. So we're changing from a fiscal year to a calendar year cycle. Another area, the police department, community detail, those are, there's actually no funds that have been appropriated for community detail. So we charge the purpose of that line is when police officers do outside detail, but it's not a billable event. So it'd be something for the school,
town.
like the PFOA meetings we've had, those types of things. So, I think right now, I don't have my notes here, but we're a couple $1,000 over on that line. Something we'll need to make sure we try to get addressed in the upcoming budget. And then the other areas that I saw that were over budget was in the highway department. Our building maintenance was over $1,800, and the highway line striping were over $4,400. So
How could we be off so much on that?
I think that the problem is I don't think the budget line item has really truly reflected the cost of the striping cost.
But in the case of the highway department, his bottom line number is
It
still
bottom
fine.
line's fine and.
I guess I'd be more concerned if the bottom line was getting.
I don't think you can say that, because the budget committee's very particular on line items. And right down to the fact they took money away from him because he wasn't cutting trees.
No, I got that. I'm
And
talking
instead
about,
of having a security of money in case a tree needed to come down or anything like
Mm-hmm.
that. So in that case, that's a deficit that we're creating for ourselves by not charging that line item.
and I totally
to the
agree.
true
That
cost.
wasn't what my comment was about.
Okay.
It's just, my bottom line was, from an overall budget perspective, we're not in any danger of running out of money for the overall. I agree that when we put dollars in a line item and the budget committee goes, well, I don't think you need to cut down those 2 trees, and yank it out, and now we gotta cut down 4 trees, it hurts us. We should be budgeting appropriately for those costs, and if we hadn't, then that's our fault, but in this case, you know.
Exactly.
I just,
Especially in a case like this,
Yeah.
it just needs to be brought
in
so that we
line.
don't get screwed.
And we're not, by any chance, we're not charging those recent road projects, line striping in that line, and we should be charging it to the project. Is that a chance that that's a possibility?
Well, some of the roads that we paved, you mean,
Yeah.
and then we stripe them?
Yeah.
I'd have to double check with, Jack about that, but it's possible that,
Cause it's,
may have occurred.
it makes sense to track it from a line striping perspective, but
Right.
the funds should
but
get.
it really
moved
is
in.
part of the
But
construction
the funds
cost.
should get moved back in, and
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's what's happening, that's a curiosity question.
Yeah,
Cause if it's so far out of whack, we've done some long stretch of roads that would be more expensive, I would think.
yeah. So down at the bottom, if you want, I wanted to give an update. Anyhow, that's the overall picture. I think the budget looks great. Really, my greatest concern is the police department with the vehicle maintenance. Expended all of that money. I know that there's personnel that are on light duty, and that may have some impact on filling overtime shifts. And remember, we've taken a big chunk of money out of the police department by not electing to fill that detective position. We're using that money to help maintain, our default bottom line budget. So, not a lot of play in the police department budget. Fire is looking really healthy, and highway is looking great as well.
Overall, yeah. Good.
And just wanted to give you, I shared this with you, but if you click on the tab road paving program, I shared this with you the last meeting.
I don't have any tab of road
No,
paving.
down at the bottom.
You have to go back to the original one. Looks like you hyperlinked into a hyperlink into a
Yeah.
hyperlink, so it's kinda like looking in a mirror 5 times over. Go back to the original link, and then down towards the bottom. You see the tabs there?
Ah,
Yeah.
I clicked on the link that was on the
Yeah,
page.
you went to that one, yeah.
There's a couple that are hyperlinked and ones that.
Okay, so which one are you on now, Troy?
Why this keeps
paving?
coming up?
Road paving program?
So I'm on the road paving program. And I just want to recap our funding sources for this year. We know we had 200,000 from warrant article number 16. We have 193,000 for block grant funding. And we have the 25,000 for miscellaneous repairs. In addition, the board authorized the expenditure up to $77,840 from impact fees. That gave us a total funding $495,840. The Cutler Road project was broken up into phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 1 was approved at town meeting, and phase 2 was an addition that we use the impact fees. Both those projects have been on hold until the gas line extension was finished. That has been done now for a couple weeks, and right now it's just really getting Continental scheduled to come in and do that work. Pinecrest has been completed, $70,730. That project's done. Pilgrim's done, $111,953. Nessenkeg at $27,930, and Nacomo at $16,170. Completed. The fire station parking lot, that is done, $17,005.
That's not the full parking lot, that's just a strip
No,
out the front.
it is. And Ronissa, that was a culvert repair. We did that earlier in the year, $4,000. We have two small projects that Jack has scheduled. One is a repair in Albuquerque, and another one is to resurface Sparrow. So, not knowing what the true cost for Cutler will be, these are engineers' estimates. Well, they're actual bids, so I take that back. But, you know, it really comes down to the actual tonnage that's applied. We're looking at a balance of about $22,000 remaining unexpended.
Do we know?
So that's what we're, you know.
Do we know when he's gonna start Albuquerque and Sparrow?
Albuquerque, I think Albuquerque is actually gonna start in the next couple days.
Okay.
Sparrow is gonna be later in the year. It'll be Continental, I believe, and probably done, I don't know if it'll be done in conjunction with Cutler.
Okay. And off topic, not on the list, Hillcrest, I know I inquired on the Hillcrest stuff. Have we heard back from?
So I have heard back. So what I'm being told is that we've been told it. Hillcrest is on the 2016 resurfacing program for District 5. They're doing work right now. They've been doing the tree clearing, they've been doing drainage work, doing all that prep work. The concern is that Hillcrest is on the bottom of the list. So as these other projects that are a higher priority get completed, if for any reason they come up short on funding, Hillcrest will be bumped into the next year.
I don't think he can survive another year.
And when I was talking to the district engineer, I'm like, well, if that happens, is it possible that you can at least get it shimmed? Just a greater shim or, something. I said, there's just no way that road can go through another winter like that. It's just falling apart. And he was uncommitted.
Of course not, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's like, I can't tell you. I mean, and if it is going to be paved, it's going to be later in the year.
Why would they do that work now then?
Because they're doing all their prep work for all the projects.
Maybe we should talk
I
to
have
our
a feeling-
representative to make a phone call.
I mean, I do believe that they just have to. They can't commit. I don't. With the paving prices and all, pretty low, I think that the project will get done. But
So, let me ask this question. Why does the state own roads in town?
Because it's an each
Because
of us
they have that
highway.
power.
They have the power to order anything they want.
Because we
it
maintain
goes way back.
Hillcrest already.
We just plow it. that's
We
all
do the winter maintenance.
that's all.
Right, we do the winter maintenance.
We just do the plowing, yeah, on Hillcrest, that's it, and sanding. and
Why
whatever.
can't we petition the state to dig the road up, repave the road, and turn it over to us, and we'll take care of it?
Going forward.
Oh, you can petition them for anything, whether they'll do it or not, only God knows.
Well, I'm sure, I mean, it would greatly increase the cost, and they wouldn't wanna do that, but why don't we ask? Because that road is sad. Sad to have to travel in and out of this town. And I have to drive on it every day.
Yeah, me too.
I told the district
Sad.
engineer it was in failure.
Definitely.
And,
It
and
is,
he
it
disagreed
definitely
with me. I'm
Tell them I'm
like,
driving down it every day.
I drive that road every day. It's in complete failure.
You can't take the bend after Deerwood going towards Londonderry on a rainy day and not have your car skipping across the road
Because of the potholes?
because of the potholes that you can't see because they're filled with water. It's that bad.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, and the state just doesn't, I almost said something bad, care because they're not affected by it because they're not driving on it. We wouldn't let our roads get that bad.
No, we wouldn't.
No, it wouldn't, but the state prioritizes too, so I mean, it's, you know what I mean?
And
Well,
we're
there's
just
a lot
Litchfield.
more roads that are a lot worse than that road in state of New Hampshire, so. It's
Okay.
just like we do, we prioritize what we do in town.
Yeah, but
That's what
not
we-
even our worst road, I don't think it's any worse than that.
Yeah.
Worse than that, so.
Okay, anything else on Litchfield roads?
That's just wanted to make sure we all understand the paving.
We should do a petition for the state and have everybody in this town sign it. So
What if we go, what if we
Should do it
went and
online.
started filling some of the holes?
It's just gonna fall apart. We can fill all you want. It's gotta be grinded down.
Well, they're not gonna do what needs to be done.
Doesn't sound like it. They gave us hope and now they've taken it away. They ripped it away.
Next item is
Okay.
police detail fund balance.
That's the next tab.
It is?
Yeah, you gotta pop yourself back.
Oh, same thing?
Oh, here,
Maybe, I don't know where you are.
you find
No,
it?
you just enlarge your screen way too much. You can't see the tabs. It's down there.
I got a couple, tabs here talking about the police detail fund. And so Karen just gave me these numbers today, so this is an up-to-date report of where we're at with the detail fund. Currently, right now, the cash in the fund is $1,785. We have outstanding invoices in the amount of $53,387, which brings the total fund balance to $55,173
And 36 cents.
and 36. Due to the general fund would be salaries. Included in the salaries is the Medicare cost, and so that's $45,500. We owe the general fund for New Hampshire State Retirement $2,632. Unemployment $115. Workers' comp $277. Our admin charges of $579, and the cruisers at $3,100. We also have, what Karen has done, is calculated out the amount outstanding for the first match of the employees' 457 contributions.
That's the
So
$1,000.
so some people have been paid, some people didn't have the hours in enough or had not contributed the $1,000 yet. So we still carry that as a potential liability, that eventually they're going to work the hours and want to receive their match.
But there'll be more money going into the fund when as they work.
Yeah.
Right now, it shows only what they work today.
Right. So I'm just showing, but assuming that everyone cashes in their $1,000 match, and we collect every dollar that's outstanding in invoices, then right now our fund balance would be a negative $2,800.
Not if you take out that match. Because
Exactly.
you're assuming that they haven't
That's
made
the-
the money, so at this point, it looks like we're achieving what we want. It's gonna break even if everyone.
Okay, so that represents the possibility of 2 officers.
That's what I'm saying. I'm just saying that, making the assumption that,
But that's if they
These
stop
officers.
working details now.
Now, right, they're not gonna stop. They're gonna continue working, so
Well-
that revenue should be keep on going.
And that negative number will get bigger.
No, it'll go up.
well, I don't,
It'll go the other way. It should go positive.
look, now I want to just show you something that, the next tab, which is the special detail fund balance graph. And this is just for information. But something here, a pattern that I guess I'm concerned about. Karen's been talking to me about it because she's concerned about it. And you can see that the fund balance has continued to decline year after year after year.
When you say fund balance, let's just make sure the
Detail.
detail account.
Yeah, but we use those
And you-
funds to deal with stuff that we originally
Right.
appropriated for it. I guess
I understand that.
where's the revenue? Because our detail revenue should start going up now. We're getting a whole. If I look at as many cruises I've been seeing on the road doing special details and all the different things that have been going on, there's definitely.
They did 143
You-
hours
you-
of detail last week.
You
Right.
are not collecting enough money to fund the details. I tried to tell that to the board back whenever.
When we set the rate to make money to cover it.
No, we set the rate actually below what the recommended rate was.
No.
No.
Yes, absolutely yes.
No, we
Yes.
try to stay competitive was the issue.
We try to stay competitive.
And you tried to stay competitive, and we were saying that you needed, and I forget the number, 78
Well, we were-
or $68.
We were $67 to $70.
But if we had done that, we wouldn't be getting the jobs that we're getting today. That was the concern. So we said we'd reevaluate it.
And that's what this whole exercise is to do, is
I
to
don't-
take and give you an insight into where it stands today.
but what's throwing it me off is you're assuming something that's not reality. That $5,000 is a what if everyone took it now, or who didn't put in for their first, or is that
I
is
believe-
when
I
are they gonna when are these first match people gonna happen?
Well, July, we're gonna have the second match.
Yep.
So
And
it'll be
how
the
and if
second.
all the officers are qualifying for the match, how many of them even coming close to get the $1,000 in the bank to do the match?
I don't know. I mean,
That's-
but there,
to me,
you've
that's-
got 9 officers that, are eligible for it.
But not all 9
I think we
officers
only
working
had
in-
2 or 3 that cashed, I don't know how many actually cashed in, but, it was 3 or 4 that already met their $1,000 match.
And now
And there's
those-
actually officers
some
who
of
are
these
working on the
officers
second
wait.
1,000.
They do wait until later in the fall. A lot of them do the spooky world.
That's my point. Is I was just trying to say is how of this exposure, this $5,000 exposure, is who's qualified now as of today, or is that assumption that all the ones that work details?
It's an assumption that everyone will,
That's okay.
it's an assumption that everyone will request their $1,000. Yes, and I understand. In order to do that, they're gonna be working more hours to
More
get.
hours going to the kitty
Right.
to match the $1,000, and they're going to be willing to put the $1,000. I'm sure they're not putting what they can away now. They're pocketing little change and throwing into the pile, and hopefully by the end of the year they get the match.
Well, I know. It's just, I wanna make sure the board continues to monitor the fund. I wanna make sure that, we at a minimum always have, funding available to meet our obligation of the union contract for at least the first $1,000. The second, if you click on the tab, police detail hourly rate. You see that one?
Yep.
Okay. So what I'm trying to show here is how we calculated the calculation that justifies the $64 per hour that we charge. So the officer receives $44.90 per hour. $11.84 goes to New Hampshire State Retirement. Another 65 cents. This is all per hour. 65 cents goes to Medicare. 45 cents goes to unemployment. $1.07 goes to workers' comp. $2.25 goes to the admin fee. And I don't know what you call it, but I call it our profit or other of $2.84.
We're not supposed to be making profit.
Well, it really, that money is, this is the money
That makes up.
that covers the
Administrative
450.
costs.
No, this is our, because our admin cost is the 5%, $2.25. So the other $2.84, that's the money that we capture that starts to build, the fund so that we can pay the 457
I don't-
match.
I don't understand the admin fee. Where's that $2.25 an hour going?
To the,
Well, it's,
pay for the accounting done in the offices.
No, I don't. In the 284 is why is it not $5 and whatever cents it is going into the profit pile? Because the admin fee, a lot of the admin, there's no difference in the admin fee in this office over there. All they're doing is doing payroll. There's no change. Over here is who's processing the hours and putting into the labor chart. Their hour.
They're being paid.
there's a lot, there's,
But they're being paid. But they're being paid whether they're doing that or not because they're
Right.
already there. So
Right.
why are we taking the $2.25 out and not putting it to the detail fund for funding the detail fund?
that admin cost, it represents the cost, because that's, when you calculate your hourly rate that you charge for outside detail services, you're justifying all your costs. So we're
Troy,
telling the taxpayers.
Troy, I get that.
No, I know, but we're telling the taxpayers that we're gonna allow company X to have a police officer. And we're gonna make sure that you, as a taxpayer, don't lose any money on this deal. So we're trying to account for the time that the chief puts into, and then his staff puts into scheduling and monitoring all the outside detail. And then eventually when it comes over here to finance and we're processing invoices and it's adding more work to our payroll and more reporting, I spend time monitoring it myself. So that's how we try to recapture some of that added cost.
But none of that is above and beyond what you do day to day. When you
But
talk
what I
about-
do, what I do day to day is for the taxpayers.
I understand
This
that.
service is
I understand
part of
that, but you're getting paid already. So you're already being paid for those hours. I'm just talking about this fund should go and fund the
The taxpayers should not have to pay money for Troy or office
doesn't
support or
cost any
anybody.
more.
Well, then we could cut back in the offices, John. You're making the assumption that we have to continue with the same number of hours. We could cut back in the offices. The bottom line on it is the citizens of this town should not be paying to have an officer doing detail work.
I
And that
agree.
includes the amount
The
of money that
officer
we.
doing detail work
If I
has
can
nothing.
finish what I was saying, that includes the amount of money that we have to spend in order to have Troy review the data, the office people put the numbers together, Chief O'Brien to issue the detail work, Chief Secretary to do all of that type of consolidation of the numbers, to be able to do all of that. The citizens shouldn't have to pay for it.
My point was that as for the result of doing these detail work, no one increases their hours of work.
No, but we're paying the town, that's what you're missing. We're paying for them to do that, that's what you're missing. What he's saying is we
I'm
should
not
be.
missing it. I'm not missing it because the reality of it is the chief is a salary employee. No matter how many hours he works, he does what he does. It's dispatch that does the scheduling of those duties. They're there for the 12, whatever hour, 20 hours they were here a week or a day, whatever it is there. Andrea's here doing payroll. She's doing payroll whether it includes us or not. It's no extra burden of us to take it. I'm just saying, why are we dumping it back to the general fund and just not putting it into the detail fund itself? That's my only question. I don't care about the fact that it's $64 and that $2. I'm not trying to lower that cost to the company. I'm just saying we're bucking that money at the result.
Because if we do that, the taxpayers are paying for it.
Taxpayers are paying. You're twisting it because at the end of the day, unless we're going to reduce hours, the taxpayers are still paying every employee in this building the same amount of dollars, whether they're doing this or not. So are we saying that, okay, because if we don't do details, we can cut the office over here one day and then with day a week because we generate a day's worth of work? This work results in 5 extra minutes of the same day that they're already being paid. That's my only point. I'm not saying lower the cost to the company because then that means we are burdening all that. But my point is that where this fund goes, we made a commitment to the officers to reimburse, to give them that match. That's our commitment. So versus making it always sound like it's a bad thing, take the $2.25 and redirect it to that profit line, which is what's paying for those details. I mean, the match fund.
I have no idea what you're saying. The bottom line on it is the citizens of Litchfield should not be paying for any of the work done to support the details, period. Whether it comes out of the office, whether it comes out of the chief's office, or wherever it is, it should be a revenue and an expense neutral to the citizens of Litchfield. Bottom line. And if what your argument is that they're doing the work anyways, the offset on this is that it goes into the general fund, and then the selectmen, as we do every year, reappropriates that out of the general fund and assigns it to tax reduction for the citizens.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
So Troy, when you're on the bottom of the hourly rate sheet here,
Yeah.
officer hired prior to 7/1/11, okay? The cost is the 61.16, the invoice is 64. For a lack of better term, we're calling it profits, $2.84.
Right.
For an officer hired after 7/1/2011, the cost is significantly different. That profit number now becomes $14.68, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so now we're going over hours required for match.
So, yeah.
For
Do you
the more
Do
expensive
you understand what I've
officers-
done there?
I'm trying, that's why I'm trying to follow up and make sure that
So
I
what-
got
what-
it exactly.
Okay, what I tried to do was, if you have an officer that's been hired prior to July 1st, 2011, they're required to pay into the New Hampshire retirement system, and that's why the profit margin is so much smaller.
Yeah.
So, for every hour they work, they make $2.84. And I calculated in order to earn the $2,000 match, that officer would have to work 704 hours
That's per officer.
per officer.
Okay, that was where my question came, because these numbers seem way too low. But if that's
I
per
thought they were
officer.
high. But
No,
704 hours.
704 hours, I'm thinking if that's the whole force, That's nothing.
This is per officer.
No,
That's
it's
per
it's
officer.
Per officer.
That makes
But
more
that's,
sense
that's
to me.
detail hours, right? They have to work 704
Detail
detail
hours.
hours.
And then I broke it down into weeks and days. And I've done this 5 times because I didn't believe the numbers. I hope they're wrong. But it's impossible for an officer to work 17.6 weeks in a given year outside detail, or 88 days.
So,
It's impossible.
so the question now comes to this. We always used cruiser money to kick back in towards the first $1,000. That's not being accounted for at all now.
Right.
Cruiser money goes to cruiser.
Right. But that's how we used to pay it.
After all expenses, if I remember right.
I'm not sure. of
Right,
that.
after
I
all
don't-
expenses.
I don't believe so.
And that was the way we always did it, is that after all expenses on the detail cruiser rate, all those funds were used up, whatever was left, that was what was used to regenerate towards the 457.
Right. See, I go
So-
back. I
and
go back to
this isn't
that.
on here at all, so,
I go back to that graph, and I see that, you know, you go back to 2012 and you had like $35,000 in the fund. And yeah, we used it, some stuff for radio equipment, we used it for this and that, but we had good, healthy cash. And you just see that graph continue to go down. And if these numbers are correct, I don't expect any of these officers to work this amount of hours. And we're gonna hit a point where we're not gonna be generating enough revenue to cover,
but
The
that
cost.
What's the
is
hours for the
why
fire
we could always do it before.
but you use that money.
Right.
Yeah.
And the problem is, you paid out of the budget the money that went to support the cruisers for maintenance.
Well, you can only use the detail cruiser fee to pay for work on the detail cruisers.
I'm not arguing with that at all. I'm saying that
We're not gonna
The-
use
the-
that much money.
the maintenance costs of those cruises was taken out of the budget. The gas cost for those cruises is taken out of the budget.
Right.
And it should be offset by the costs that we collect for the cruiser
I agree, but let's just say, in the end of all of that, we had
and oil.
$7,000 left into that line.
Where
We
the-
would typically take that money that we needed to offset the 457 out of that and put it in.
I don't,
But I agree with you that before we weren't accounting for the gasoline.
Right.
We weren't accounting, so we needed to separate that, and I completely agree with that. But we do use the balance from that line to pay the 457. We have.
I thought we have too, and I thought we had actions in the year, we moved money from one account to the other to cover those expenses that were incurred by detail cars.
very, to my knowledge, very little.
Yeah, but we never
The
did
bo-
for
the-
gas
the
and stuff.
bottom
Yeah, you may
line,
be right about that.
You've gotta do gas, oil,
Yeah.
you've gotta basically pay for the cruises. That includes tire wear, all of that rigmarole.
So
for
am
those
I-
cruises.
Help me, I think I have this
We
right.
can't help you, John.
I know, sorry. I love to see this calculation for the first 1,000, because the first 1,000 is the only thing that we really guarantee. The second 1,000 is, if there is funds available, we'll match the second
Well,
1,000.
the point in this is the second 1,000 is unattainable.
But I agree, based on how you've calculated it, it seems like it's unattainable, but how many folks, what does it require for these same officers? What do they have to work to match to get the first 1,000?
This is it.
No, it says 2,000.
Well, this would be the first.
Oh, this is, yeah,
this
you've
is
got the 2,000.
2,000, yeah.
Yeah, it's 2,000. I'm just
So
curious.
divided by 2,
All right, so, okay.
and then multiply by pi.
So, for the cruises, we're charging $15 now, right?
10.
Correct.
10 per hour?
Is it, no, it's
I believe it's
15.
I thought we bumped it to 15.
It wasn't bumped, it was always 15.
Yeah, I
It
don't
used
think
to
we
be
changed
10.
the cruiser cost.
No, I don't think so. I thought it was always 15.
All right, either way.
So they have to work 350
If it's,
hours.
if it's $15 an hour, and the officers do 2,000 hours worth of detail, that's 30 grand that you're collecting just for the cruises. There's no way you're spending 30 grand to maintain 2 cruises.
No, we have not.
Right.
And just last week alone, they, out there was almost every one of our cruisers that were not in patrol were out there doing details.
I have no doubt.
Right, and the good.
I'm just telling
And
you
the
that,
good thing about that is if that's cataloged, you can pay the gas from those cruises out of that fund as well.
right. You should be paying it out of there.
You should be. I completely agree with that.
But that's going
So-
to be, that, because we get our own gas station, issues we had to figure out what was detail miles. The problem is we don't, the way they're gonna calculate is based on miles.
No, they
And those
fill 'em
calculate
up-
based
they
on the
fill 'em
fill
up
back, fill it back
every
up again.
shift,
So
right?
they
It's,
get
it should be
gallons
filled
filled.
up on the number of gallons they burn, so.
I do agree that one of the options that we should look at, if we feel the hourly rates need to be adjusted, is that we could look at reducing the hourly rate that we charge for the cruiser and increasing the hourly rate charged for the officer. So that we still try to remain competitive.
The problem is that the contract for signed between the town and the union basically says that we will charge a rate based upon, I think it's a master patrol officer, first year of the contract, if I'm not mistaken. And,
No, I'm saying the $64 is the rate that we charge.
this,
Contract. So if you increase the $64, but at the same time decrease the charge that we, for the cruiser,
the
we're still
contract,
staying.
let me
competitive.
repeat myself. The contract signed between the union and the town of Litchfield says that you will set the detail rate to be the amount of money paid to a master patrol officer in the first year of the contract. You can't change that rate.
No, I'm talking about the rate that we have right now is $44.90. That's set by the
Let me
union.
clarify. You can change the rate, you can't change the pay of the officer.
That's right. I'm not suggesting that we change the compensation, the hourly compensation for the officer that's set by union contract at $44.90.
Cost going to the.
I'm saying the $64 that we charge, say, Continental Paving, we could increase that.
The board didn't want to do that.
We did.
Been
Well,
there,
no,
done
we-
that.
We wanted to remain competitive.
And the union
so I'm-
wants to remain
I'm saying that if
competitive.
we decrease the cruiser
But you
fee,
still have to send a car out, so why, what's the difference? It's not, it doesn't seem like.
because right now, the way the program's set up is that the money that I collect for car revenue goes back specifically for the car.
But if there's, but if
But
the
if
fund
there's-
has more at the end of the year, we just use it to offset it.
That's what we've always done.
I agree, we have.
I see what
But
you're
it's a
saying.
specific-
It
let's go-
makes
let's
sense.
go
It
one
goes
step-
back to my specific thing. If you're charging a contractor an extra fee, we say it's $64 to have the officer there. And if you want a cruiser,
He has to have a
it's
cruiser.
an extra, not
We
all,
don't
not all
dispatch-
details need a cruiser.
I-
If you, it's optional. I mean, sometimes it's mandatory, right?
If they're
But
doing highway,
sometimes
they
it's
have to
ones
have
in
a light.
Manchester, they just want an officer there,
Maybe.
I guess. They don't always need a cruiser. But if you're charging specifically an hourly rate for the cruiser, that rate is for the use of the cruiser to go back into the vehicle maintenance, period.
But as the calculation we just had is, if it's $30,000 in a year, we don't spend $30,000 in maintenance in the cruisers. That's why we had such a glut the
understand.
first year we did it, because we had a lot
Right.
of,
Some towns don't have a cruiser rate. They have an hourly rate. It just includes,
Right. But
it's
we
just an
decided-
hourly rate.
We decided to keep it separate.
Yeah.
But I also remember when I made that, I believe I made that motion to set the rate at the $64. I also said, we're gonna try this and we're gonna see how it works out.
Right.
And at
You did.
about the halfway point in the year, we could go back and take a look and see where we're at.
And that's what we did.
I don't have a problem if we say, hey, I mean, do you really think that people are gonna say, whoa, we gotta stop doing details? Because they just raised our rate $1. You know what I'm saying?
No,
We can easily raise this rate another $1 or $2, and it probably won't affect anything because of how much details there are right now.
Last time we discussed this, there was a huge outcry from
Well, we
members
were
of.
talking about going over $70.
Let me stop. Let me explain. There was a huge I think the number I had was 68. But there was a huge outcry because that would put us as the highest in the county, and they would lose the ability to go to Manchester is what their concern was. And they stated that they felt an inn in Manchester and that they would lose that if we raised our rates because Manchester would pick a more economical town, if you wanna call it that.
But they
to
also
use
got that feedback from Manchester directly.
That's fine. I don't care where they got the feedback from. I'm just saying that was the concern. So raising it beyond $64 an hour,
My suggestion is that if it's possible, that maybe we could break this out into sort of a working committee consisting of a couple selectmen, myself, the finance director, the police chief, and see if we can get 2 members of the police union. And we all sit down in a room and just kind of look,
a lot of
work these
people.
A lot
numbers.
of people, but I don't,
But we're all in a common interest. We just want to make sure that we're a competitive rate and that we're collecting the money, appropriating it, and everything's gonna
Can
work
we-
smoothly.
can
I
we see a
think-
report that also includes the detailed car rate, what's in the fund and what's still outstanding, what the standing costs are? Because I'm going back to the cars, I'm gonna call it a slush fund, cause I just don't wanna
Yeah.
call it something. But there's no way, we had 143 hours or so last week in detail, that's 143 hours of car detail rate. We don't have $30,000, whatever the number is, of car repairs.
Yeah.
So there should be about $20,000 there that should be able to be moved into this fund next year, at the end of the year, to cover all this stuff.
I understand. I'm just telling, I'm saying that if you are charging someone specifically for a cruiser, the purpose of that charge is not to go back to other compensation. It's to go back into the cruiser funds. And that's what I'm saying.
understand, but
Reduce the hourly cruiser rate and increase your hourly officer rate.
it doesn't matter, okay.
I think it's an accounting thing.
I see your point.
If
but-
I was a contractor and I owned a company, and you charged me $15 an hour for a cruiser, I would ask you why. Well, because we're gonna pay this, we're gonna pay that, we're gonna pay this. It should be specifically for whatever you calculated the cost to be for that cruiser to sit there for 1 hour.
So included in the charge list, the cruises cost $15 an hour, $10 to maintain the car, $5 goes to the policeman retirement fund. That's all it really is.
I can find it.
So let me ask this one, how many officers do we have that were hired after 7/1/11?
3,
I think we only have 3.
3.
We have
After 7/1,
one
you either
retired.
got 2 or 3.
It's
I
3.
knew, I
You have
knew it
two
was 2. I was
two
hoping
full-timers,
it was
one part-time.
Yeah,
No.
it's 3. Yeah, you get George,
Coral, Ivis,
Cor-
and Lang. Coral, because he's retired.
yeah, Coral, but then, yeah, Lang is the
He
other one.
can't pay into the.
And I thought I was thinking of Lammy, but he's already gone. You didn't know him.
Well, somewhere along the line.
I didn't
Somewhere along the line, I
anticipate
actually,
on resolving this tonight. I just really wanted to.
I actually calculated the cost of a
Bring it
cruiser on
up
a per hour
again as an
basis,
issue.
but I can't find it right
Well,
now. I'm not gonna waste my time.
Well, yeah, and if you're gonna calculate the cruises and you wanna put in depreciation of the cruises so that you continue to build the fund to replace the cruises as well, I get that. And it makes sense to me. It's just, we have always, and we have to match that first $1,000. The second 1,000 is, if we can.
Right.
I mean, we've used that money before to do that. So, I don't know.
Yeah, I
But
just
if
think,
raising the detail rate another $1 or 2 is gonna make us in a much better position and then we need to just have that discussion with the chief and say, do you think that the rates can bear it? Because we said when we set this rate back last year that it was gonna be a go back, reevaluate and see where we stand.
I think they said that when they were in here last time.
They agreed to wait, looking at it half of the year, yeah.
Yeah.
You may still get pushback if you try to go too high.
I don't think $1 would hurt. I don't think
can
people
assure
would even
you-
blink.
I can assure you that there is not $30,000, which you're estimating, gonna be left in this fund based upon the cruises.
It was a number we threw out, we didn't say that.
I was just calculating 2,000 hours at $15 an hour. Just to throw a number out there,
I'm
that's money
telling
being
you right
collected.
now, if you, I've got the numbers somewhere, I'll have to find them, but the bottom line on it is $15 an hour is just about paying for the cruises, period. You've got insurance, title, all of that type of stuff that you gotta pay for in this.
Yeah.
And I calculated this, I know I calculated this at some point, and I gave you a spreadsheet on it.
Yeah.
And if we have that calculation, that just makes it that much more that we can go, hey, we can match you $1,000, but we can't guarantee the money's gonna be there to match the 2,000 because you don't want us to increase the rate. Right?
I don't have a problem with that.
As long as,
I tried to explain that to the union when they were all sitting out here, and the reason we were looking at this is because if we don't collect enough money,
And we did increase it. I think we were at $58.
Yeah.
that's right.
We went to 64,
right.
Right,
so.
And they were originally asking for like 61
fine
or
with it.
62. I mean,
right. Well,
Yeah,
the
well,
chief
I
had
think
calculated that
originally we were like thinking 67 or 68 or something like that.
Chief O'Brien had calculated that we'd have tons of money left over in this thing.
well, I mean, I don't
And-
think he was actually accounting for the retirement and the Medicare and
I
all
know.
those things. I mean,
Yeah,
It just, yeah.
okay.
So that's
th-
good. We'll-
there's simple oversights to not look at that. I mean, that's why we have people that calculate these numbers.
Anything else on the financial report that people are interested in? We wanted to look at it, we'll look at it again in another couple.
I want to point out
Months.
one more tab, if you
Go
can see
ahead.
it. 2016 default budget adjustments. This is a link.
Well, I already looked at that.
We'll go back to it.
That was what I was looking at.
Yeah, then you got to click on
the
the
whole
link.
time you were talking the first time and saying all of the how the budget was going.
Yeah, me too.
Go ahead.
Oh, really?
It wasn't line up what you were talking about, but like, okay.
All right. Well,
Sorry.
here's the thing. We're on record of voting. These are your list of adjustments and increases. And the way we left this, we were still not in balance with the default budget.
$9,000 off.
$9,000 off. And basically what I've learned, going to a couple of the stormwater meetings, we will not need the $10,000 for the MS4 permit this year. The
Now we're-
permit, the
now we're in the
permit will be
positive.
issued sometime this late summer, fall. It will be issued this year. There will be a 1-year grace period so that we can all plan appropriately. So there will be no money spent this year.
So before we get a fine or a penalty, when does the next report due on stormwater?
I submitted that.
Okay, so you
Back
did
in
submit
April
one,
or
it should be
May.
April or May, yeah. Okay, fine, I'm happy then.
Yeah. Yeah, that's been submitted, and like I said, so when the permit comes out, there'll be a 1-year grace period.
That's great. So we would have approximately
You're balanced.
$629.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow.
In the positive.
What are we gonna do with all that?
I don't
You
know.
probably pay
We should
2,000.
probably save it. We might need a couple of dollars from that.
Fix the next water pump in the cruiser.
Anything else, gentlemen?
So I guess, can I have a vote to,
To,
on that, to, remove the $10,000 for stormwater management in the
What?
adjusted default budget?
Why would we remove it?
Just leave
and
it
do
there.
what with it?
Just don't expend it.
We're not gonna use it.
As long as it's not expended.
It's fine.
Well, I'm not sure, when you say, when you say remove it, what are you looking to
Where are you gonna put it to, I guess is my question. If we're gonna move it, we got a place to put it, and I don't see any reason why we gotta move it.
Okay. Well, let me come, if I need to come back, I'll come back with you, but.
Well, the bottom line on it is, I'm expecting that what it'll be done is it'll be used to offset some of the overruns in some locations, and then we'll,
Yeah.
you know, beyond the bottom line.
Right
or
now, it's
something.
it's in the budget, and it's earmarked 10,000 for stormwater, so it can stay there, or?
So if you need us to move it somewhere, we'll move it.
Okay.
So just leave it in the budget the way it is. Make sense?
Yep.
Anything else, Troy?
That's it.
Okay, so let me click out some tabs here. Reports on other business, administrator report, Troy.
All right, just one item. Terry asked that I bring this to the board. We registered a vehicle last week. The resident had brought in paperwork and stated that he just incorrectly stated the model of the vehicle, which resulted in obviously a different fee that's charged for the title registration. But we processed the title registration as in accordance with the information he provided. After the fact, he came in and realized that he provided us with the wrong information. And it's been the policy of the department that once you've registered your vehicle, we do not make corrections and re-register it again. But the person has written a letter and asking that it be corrected.
I thought he had to go to the state to do that. If he made the mistake
Well,
in the blue paperwork,
It's, it's a combination between the state, the town office, and then our software company. So it's, that's why Terry said it's always been our policy, we don't change the registration. It can get corrected the next year that he registers a vehicle.
how much was the difference?
The refund would be $41.
And it's $41 to the town, or $41 from, was it $41 in our favor or to the state's favor?
I guess it would be, I don't, it's a refund to the property, the car owner, $41 is
It would most
Or
likely.
what the breakdown for
the
state.
state fees are set, so it would
Yeah.
most likely be us.
So we hold it in credit and give him credit next year. Well, I'm not saying this,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Can he go to the state and get it fixed?
I do not know.
The thing I don't understand is when you register your vehicles or you have a new vehicle, I mean, it's all on the paper.
Well, he didn't have his paperwork, apparently. What he had some, but the paperwork that he had didn't have the model information. So when they asked him, what model is it, he told them the wrong model. And then when he went home, he realized it was a different model, which actually cost less to register.
So
But the
what
VIN-
would have happened if it was the other way around?
He wouldn't have came back. Neither would I.
I think that's why Terry says, my policy is we don't change it. But
That's all it
So
takes
what
to
is
get a
Ter-
lower
This
registration.
So
is
what does
really,
Terry have?
this is really an issue, and it's not, the Board of Selectmen don't have
the
have
clerk's
any
office.
involvement in this.
It's
I
Terry's
mean, I
issue.
think you leave it at the town clerk's
Yeah.
This is-
discretion. She's the
this-
elected official.
I would say that, yeah.
Yeah.
Just leave it at the,
This is up to her. I mean,
I think if she has a policy, she has a policy.
Yeah.
It doesn't,
anything else, Troy?
That's it.
Okay, Selectmen reports. Mr. Bork.
nothing. I was supposed to be at the budget meeting and, got tied up with work and did not make that, so, I have nothing.
Okay, so if you have that issue or whatever, just give one of us a call.
Yeah, well, I did email, Cindy. I planned on making it, but I didn't make it. So by the time I got out of work, they were just about done, so I didn't go over, but.
Okay. Mr. Brunel?
nothing, just tomorrow night's rec commission meeting, and that's all I have at this point. Nothing new.
Mr. Perry?
The planning board met and basically it was a work session last time to go over, because we have so many new members, to try to catch them up on speed for site plans and, reading the subdivisions, things like that. There's, two plans that are coming into the board at our next meeting, which would be, I believe it's next Tuesday. One would be a fairly substantial subdivision, and the other one is, I believe it's a one lot into two. So, if you wanna have some fun and see what the planning board does, feel free to come down.
And I have nothing to report. The only thing, we had started the consortium of the towns for the PFOA, getting people together. I think the last meeting we were supposed to have, not that I think, I know the last meeting.
Postponed it or canceled
We
it.
postponed it because there was a meeting of the, state, yeah, at, I think they were having a meeting on, it was the 24th, which was the fourth Tuesday of the month. So, John, I know you and I had talked about trying to do that. Is that something you can pull together, a meeting for the 28th?
Well, I thought I certainly can, but I thought the Merrimack town manager was doing the arrangements. I'm not on any of the lists, remember that? That was some of the feedback I gave you originally.
Well, the list, the only list that's there, the only list is, I just put together a group email. That's all I did.
Oh, I don't have any of the emails, that's what I was asking, but okay. I can reach out to the Merrimack town manager again.
Okay, I
That's
mean,
great.
we were gonna have it over here, but if you wanna have it in Merrimack, that's fine. I'm looking for you to transition into being the
Yeah.
representative, so. I will send you a copy of all of the email
If
addresses.
you could do that, that would be helpful.
Okay. And it looks like the 28th, and then there was a discussion about what that group, if they're gonna do anything in terms of legal counsel. So, if they have done anything for legal counsel, but that's up to them, so. Okay. And no items removed from consent, there was no other business added. So I think that's really about it, except for our non-public session. So,
There was one thing, probably we, John, Frank, myself, some school board members, we're gonna be meeting with, Liberty Utilities.
oh, okay.
Oh, on Monday the 20th.
Yeah. So basically, we've coordinated a meeting, with Liberty Utilities to have a discussion about the possibility of extending natural gas, service to the schools and town facilities.
Is the school interested in this?
In the school, the superintendent, business administrator, and chairman of the board will be at that meeting.
Are they
So,
interested in
Well,
doing
I'm
it?
assuming they are. They
Okay.
responded extremely quickly.
It should be.
Yeah.
I think it'd save them tremendous amounts of money, because right now they're using what, propane, or they're using?
Propane.
Okay.
At least it'll be a consistent amount of propane. No interruption in service.
Okay. Anything else, Troy?
No.
Anybody have anything else? Hearing nothing else, then, the board will be having two non-public sessions tonight, both dealing with, public employees. And, we will only be coming out of that non-public session to, adjourn. So I will make the motion for the first non-public. I'll motion to go into, non-public for RSA 91A, colon 3, Roman numeral 2A, compensation of a public employee.
Second.
The motion is second, roll call, Mr. Bork,
Yes.
Mr. Byron, yes. Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Mr. Brunel.
Yes.
Okay, so we will see you, our next meeting, ladies and gentlemen, will be on the 27th. We will see you that evening. Oh, one last thing, I will be out of town, on the 28th, 29th, and 30th. So, just to let people know.